Hey everyone, in this video we're going to show you how to draw a comb. So grab your pencils and let's get drawing. The first thing you want to do is just establish what type of comb you're drawing. You can have a symmetrical comb or a comb with a handle. We're going to draw the comb with a handle. So the handle will kind of be over here. Something like that. And then just over here, the comb will actually the teeth will be over here. So this part will go down. And what we'll do is we will just kind of draw something like that. So that's kind of the rough outline. We can always clean it up a little bit if we want. By the way, I'll give you some interesting facts about combs as well. So just to kind of keep you on your toes, okay? So I think there's probably like many different types of combs. This one is by no means like the only way to do a handle-based comb. You can have different types, but you know what? This is something that is probably pretty common in terms of a handle comb. And we're not drawing a brush. A brush is more like, if you're brushing your hair, this is more like a flat comb with teeth on it, right? So, so let's do that. This is kind of the rough outline and shape of the comb. I guess that happens, right? What are you gonna do? I'm just gonna sharpen this up for a quick second. Maybe while I sharpen, I'll tell you that examples of primitive combs have been found as far back as 5,000 years. So combs have been around for quite a long time and all over the world. So combs have been found all over the world from thousands and thousands of years ago, and the earliest of which has gone back 5,000 years. And also combs, you know, not limited to, but can be wood, ivory, bone, turquoise, tortoise shell, onyx, and many other different types of materials. So something else that's kind of interesting to note. The trickiest part about drawing the teeth is just making sure that everything is aligned. So you're gonna have this kind of line that's gonna go across like this. Very faintly draw that line. We're probably gonna erase it very soon, and you do not want it to kind of show. You want to just keep it a little bit hidden, but you want that line to connect over here, right? You want it to connect to the, you know, the other part of the comb that exists over here. So keep that in mind. Okay. Now, in order to establish the interior part of the comb, you also want to draw a line, very, very faint, that's parallel to the line that you drew below. Now you can eyeball it, or you can be very technical. If you're going to be technical, just grab your ruler and just make sure that we'll use our metric side. We'll do, let's see, we'll do 3.5 centimeters. So we'll do one over there, and we'll do one over here, 3.5. And then what we'll do is we'll just draw a very, very, very faint line connecting these two. You could even erase a touch of it just because you don't want it to show later. Although we'll add some shading, so it's probably okay if it does show. And then what you want to do is on this line that we're drawing, we're just going to draw the indentation points, but you want them to be pretty equally distant, or equidistant as they say. So if we're going to draw a comb, you know, of a random thickness, if you will, what we can do is maybe we'll use the inches side and just try to make this just a little more realistic as well. So let's just make sure that this is accurate. 1, 2, 3, 4. So we'll start over here. So yeah, what we'll do is we'll do every, I think it's a 1/4 inch, but anyway, every space here, we'll do a little dot. So what you want to do is just repeat that process and just go every 1/4 inch, okay? So just repeat, just go, repeat. So you want to do that all the way across. And the reason we're doing this is because it is tempting, but it's really easy to get off track in terms of the teeth of the comb being different distances. And when they are different distances, they really look a little bit off. Like it just looks a little off. So you kind of want to avoid that if possible. So that's kind of why we're doing these spots. Now, once you have that done, what you can do is you can just draw your vertical lines going up and away. So what you want to do is just go up and just up and away. Now you're going to do the same as you go across. So we'll grab the next point that we did. And I think for this point, you can kind of like just eyeball that it's, for the most part, pretty equally distanced away and parallel, right? These are, what we're doing is we're really just drawing parallel lines over here. It doesn't have to be perfect by any means, but it would be well advised if you try to keep these lines as clear as possible in terms of, the fact that we're drawing a comb. You definitely want these to be, for the most part, pretty parallel. So I'm just going to keep going here. How are you doing? Are you drawing along or are you watching? Let us know in the comments. We'd love to hear from you. You can even see that I'm just a little bit off in a couple of these, but I'm not going to get too hung up on it. It is just a drawing, the process of which is a little bit more important. So I want to kind of show you the process of how to create the comb versus saying I'm going to make the perfect comb. Perfection never really got anyone very far, did it? They say it's a lot more about the journey than it is about the outcome. And in drawing, I think that a lot of that is true. So. Okay, so we basically, for the most part, did that pretty equally distant. What you need to do is just understand that each of these, we'll call them teeth on the comb, are going to be connected. So what we do is we bring this piece down and connect the first. Now the upper part over here we're going to keep straight. So we can get our ruler back and just draw the lines as they are connecting every other grouping of 2. So 2, 2, 2, 2, 2, all the way across. Perfect. Use your eraser to just clean up any lines that go over. But you'll see shortly we'll do some shading and kind of cover up those as well. But anyway, those are the lines that we put on. Now we're going to do the same down below, but the trick down below is we're actually not going to have sharp points. A comb, you're typically going to have a bit of curvature on the comb. So how do we do that? We actually have to make a slightly rounded tooth at the base of the comb. Even this part is curved as well. So the trick is, you can kind of see some spots that I put at the bottom. I kind of want to get rid of those. They're not really going to be used, and that part of the comb isn't going to be drawn. So you can actually go through and just kind of erase, ever so carefully, just erase some of those dots that were there. We put the dots on just as markers, just to try to guide us to make sure that we're pretty equally spaced out. However, you're not going to use them later in the drawing, so you can erase them. Okay. So what I'll do next is connect over here with a slightly rounded, ever so slightly rounded piece. And I'm going to repeat that process. I'm just going to fix this as well. Okay, so we're going to repeat the process here. Great, and we're going to repeat and repeat. So I'm just going to go through this. Maybe what I'll do is give you a fact or two while I do that. I like giving the facts when I'm kind of doing some repetitive work that kind of takes a bit of time to finish up. So maybe I can tell you that if you didn't already know, there's actually a couple living in Alaska, and since the 1950s, they've actually been collecting combs and historic pieces of comb pieces around the world, and they actually have over 3,000 antique combs that they've collected. It's in their home, and it's actually considered like a museum. They call it the Miller Comb Museum. And again, it's in Alaska. So I don't know if you've ever been to Alaska, or maybe you might be watching from Alaska. If you are, let us know. But there's actually something called the Miller Comb Museum, and there's over 3,000 different like vintage and unique and historical types of combs that have been collected. Some of which are probably, you know, really, really, really old, and, you know, different in shape. This one is what I would call like a classic comb, just has a handle and the teeth. But I'm sure there's so many other types of combs. I can't even imagine really what that would look like, but it's there. Miller Comb Museum, if you ever want to check it out in Alaska. I think the last thing that I'm going to do is just add the ever slightest bit of shading to this piece. I think it's for the most part flat. Like, this comb is pretty flat, but what I'll do is just add in like a darker kind of tone around the edge, because there is, in a comb, there's usually a bit of curvature just around the edging. Give it just the tiniest bit of 3D effect, and then we'll just add some tones to the actual piece itself. So let's do that. So we'll go around, and to create just the tiniest bit of curvature, you can just do these curvature lines at the edge. So the edge lines might be like this. And I'm using a 5B, but you can also choose to select a darker pencil as well. I'll probably go back and add some darkness to that. So I'll do that as well. But for now, I'm just basically, you know, wanting to add in some shading to this piece. So I'll do that. I was tempted to speed this part up, but follow along. Let's follow through with this together. And all I'm really doing is making sure I have, for the most part, like a uniform level of lead that's going across here. You don't want it to look heavy and light, heavy and light. You just basically want to go back and forth like this. My trick to doing this is just always be moving the pencil back and forth like this. And you'll probably be better off at having some more like uniform coverage. That's really what we want to do, is have like uniform coverage, right? Over here, just stay away from the open space. I'll show you more about that in a second. You can use your smudge technique as you wish. Add some effect, just like that, even over here. And then we'll just do the teeth. So over here, we definitely want to add just a little bit of texture over here. Not necessarily texture, just some shading to it, right? Just adding some lead to kind of let this all be one, right? And we'll do the same over here. And then for each piece, for each tooth, if you will, we're just going to add in the tiniest bit of shading as well, in an effort to make this look, you know, a little more realistic. So we'll do this piece here, we'll do this piece here. Just keep it going. If you're drawing a comb, I'd be really curious to know what you're drawing it for. I'm not really sure if you're drawing for a project or just out of practice for drawing, but I'd be curious to know. For myself, I use more of a brush. When I take a shower and I kind of blow dry my hair, put some hair gel, I use more of a brush versus a straight comb. I think a comb is much more for like straightening out the hair or pulling out hair. Just from like top to bottom, but I'm not an expert. Now, if you notice, the pieces at the bottom are a little darker at the moment. I might be wanting to just like extend them up just a little bit as well. It might just help make it look just a little more connected, right? So don't be afraid to just add in some final lines around the edges, just like that, and it might look a little more whole, might look a little more as one. And just to finish this off, I would maybe grab something like a 7B and just add the ever slightest bit of shading around the edges. The edges might give it just a bit more effect, like a bit more 3D effect, right? Just around the edges. Use your smudge technique to like just let it bleed onto the drawing. And because like I said, for the most part, this comb is flat. Like the actual main part of the comb is flat. It's not like a round handle or anything, but around the edges, like where I'm using the 7B, there is definitely a bit of curvature around the edges. So what I want to do is just make sure that I represent that, and I'm just using a 7B to represent that. Over here, I definitely want to make sure I get that in there, and some of that curvature over here. And what's interesting is that the curvature doesn't have to go, let's say, through each of these teeth. It's not like necessarily required, so you don't have to feel forced to do that. But just trying to make it uniform is really important. So just keep an eye on your whole drawing and make sure that you definitely have enough, lead covering all these pieces, right? So you might want to get that 7B used over here as well. And I guess the last part is just this piece over here. So let's just get some of that over here. Okay, use your smudge technique. I think the trick is really to, use your smudge technique without trying to go over the edge a little too much. If you go too much, you can always erase it, but try not to. Try to keep it, for the most part, pretty clear and pretty away from the edges, right? I think the last part is just to like add as much or as little darkness as you want. So you can use your 7B to like continue the darkness of this comb. And in this case, I definitely want to just bring out a little more darkness. I feel like it's just a little too light for my liking, and there's something kind of missing in terms of pulling it all together. So I would definitely want to, I guess, just keep doing this. Like keep getting some of the darkness out, like pull it out, if you will. Going through the teeth is also a really good way to like make sure that your shading is uniform, because if you noticed, I darkened up the base of the comb. You don't necessarily want the teeth of the comb to be like too light either. So just going through and what I'm doing right now is a really good way to like make everything uniform. So I would say that's pretty much it. That's kind of a quick way to draw a comb. Hopefully you enjoyed the facts as well. So at this point, I'll say thank you so much for watching and have a great day.